What is going on, everybody? What is going on? The Catch fam. Hope everyone is doing phenomenal today, man. Hope you guys are having a great Saturday. Hope everyone is doing well. A little bit of an early stream today, leaving for the beach with my family tonight, so we won't be having our typical Saturday night late stream, but nonetheless, you guys know what time it is, man. Time for some live week 12 fantasy Q&A. So hop in the live chat, man. Let me know what you guys need. Let me know what's popping. Hit that like button on the way in. Hit that subscribe button, of course, if you're new to the channel. Like I said, get in the live chat. Start, sits, ads, drops, whatever you may need. Let's talk some fantasy football. Let's have some fun. Looking forward to today. All right, so week 12, right? Already got 3 games under wraps, so a lot of fantasy implications came out of those 3 games. We kind of went over them last night, but heading into Sunday's slate, we're going to have less games overall. We're going to have more fantasy points against you or for you as we approach Sunday as well. So, Texans-Dolphins, 1 o'clock games, right? I'm not feeling very good about the Texans starting offense going into this matchup. Like, if Dameon Pierce is your only option, you can start Dameon Pierce. If you're absolutely desperate in a deeper full PPR league, you could flex Nico Collins. But like other than that, I'm really trying to stay away from this Texans offense with Kyle Allen at quarterback going up against the Dolphins. But the other aspect for Dameon Pierce owners is like the Texans are probably going to be playing from behind in this game. The Dolphins offense is no joke. So I don't like this matchup for those Texans fantasy players, although there's not a lot of them. But I'm very wary of Dameon Pierce going into the weekend. It's the main thing. In terms of the Dolphins, technically the Texans have played pretty well against the quarterback and the receiver position, but I don't care. The run game is awful for the Texans defense. So fire up Jeff Wilson Jr., Raheem Mostert's doubtful to play. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle are great starts. Tua time is a great start as well. So in terms of the competition for the Texans and Dolphins, maybe we see a little bit of a cap ceiling for that Dolphins offense, but the floors are so safe. You got to start all those players, right? All right, Bengals Titans, not the best matchup in terms of the run for the Bengals. This Titans defense is very good against the run. We know that Joe Mixon's not going to play. Samaje Perine is the back to start for the Bengals. And the advantage here is that obviously, if you look at last week, right, Samaje Perine can get it done through the air. So I think he holds a little bit of a lower ceiling than some of us were expecting going into the week, but ultimately, he's still a good start because he brings that pass catching upside. So Samaje Perine's fine in the flex, but he's actually not my favorite start just because of the way that this Titans defense plays. We know that this Titans pass rush is good as well, but I'm not worried about the Bengals offense. So Burrow, Higgins, Boyd, if you need a desperate PPR option. This Titans secondary, that's on the flip side, right? This Titans secondary is very, very bad against the pass. Very, very bad against posting receivers. So we're probably going to get Jamar Chase back, but we still don't have exact word. Hayden Hurst is always an option for kind of a safe floor tight end. The ceiling's not crazy high, of course, but he is still a perfectly fine start if you don't have better options. So I say we still roll with the Bengals offense. If I'm going to take a risk on Jamar Chase, whatever. I'll take a risk on Jamar Chase. He might be on a snap count. He might not be 100%. Just keep that in mind if you are going to start Jamar Chase this weekend. In terms of the Titans, fire up Derrick Henry. I don't care who he's playing. Derrick Henry's in your starting lineups. And that's about it. Keep an eye on Treylon Burks very closely. I do think that, especially in deeper leagues, full PPR leagues, we can still start Treylon Burks, but this Bengals defense has played well against opposing quarterbacks, and opposing receivers are not too bad against the run either. But they have also allowed for some big offensive performances against opposing teams. So this should be one of the better games of the afternoon. But, keep an eye on guys like Austin Hooper as well if you need a desperate streaming tight end. Keep an eye on Robert Woods. He had a good game last week, but I'm not fully confident. Treylon Burks is fine, but I'm not fully confident in starting a lot of these Titans players. All right, Broncos-Panthers. Last week we had a good matchup for the Broncos, and they did absolutely nothing. But full PPR, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, as long as he's good to go. Greg Dulcich are fine, but I just don't like this Broncos offense. I think Latavius Murray is the best start for the Broncos going into the weekend. In terms of the Panthers, Sam Darnold gets a start against a really good Broncos defense, okay? I mean, this Broncos team is one of the best teams from a fantasy perspective against the quarterback position and the wide receiver position. So, and they're decent against a run, too. Orak, I see at the bottom of the chat here as I'm going through, says Chase is out. Okay, that's a great update. He is ruled out as of 24 minutes ago. Thank you for the update. So, that gives obviously more upside to T. Higgins and to Tyler Boyd as good starts against a really bad Titans secondary. So thank you for the update. In terms of the Panthers offense, I'm staying away from them this weekend. Even Donta Foreman's not a good game script for him. I'm staying away from the Panthers offense. DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall Jr. I don't want any part of them going into the weekend. All right, Bears Jets. Do we have an update on Justin Fields? I should probably check before we break that one down. But he's still questionable at the moment. I mean, there's just such a different way to evaluate this game if Justin Fields is out there, if he's not out there. So I don't want to get too much into the Bears offense, but I will say it's a bad matchup. Don't love the Bears offensive players going into the weekend. And I would not start them if Justin Fields does not play. If Fields plays, they're kind of like desperate starts. Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, David Montgomery, right? I mean, we have to have Fields out there as opposed to Trevor Siemian versus a humming Jets defense at home. In terms of the Jets, I like Michael Carter a lot. It's a very good matchup against the Bears for Michael Carter. We'll see what type of upside comes to this offense with the quarterback change. Then we get Mike White out there. How does that impact Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, even Tyler Conklin at the tight end position? They should all get a little bit of a bump. But before we get too crazy, let's kind of see what happens. But I will say it's a very good matchup. So guys like Garrett Wilson, if you're desperate for a tight end, Tyler Conklin are good starts. But I think the safest start out of this offense has got to be Michael Carter. Falcons at Commanders. I'm very wary of the Falcons offense this weekend. No Kyle Pitts. Listen, it's a good matchup for Drake London. He should see good volume, but it's like outside of the running back position, you don't have a lot to worry about on this Falcons team, so I kind of worry about him, even in a good matchup. You know, I think Mariota could end up struggling in this game. This Commanders defense looked very good last weekend, so I don't really like the Falcons going into the weekend. The run defense looks really good, so guys like Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier take a big hit this weekend. For the Commanders, Terry McLaurin's a great start. It's a great opportunity against a bad Falcons secondary. Curtis Samuel's a good start here, although he always brings some boom or bust. Keep an eye on guys like Jahan Dotson and Logan Thomas in this matchup. I like Antonio Gibson a lot in this matchup because he brings that PPR upside, that pass-catching upside. I'm not a giant fan of Brian Robinson, but the matchup is still pretty good. I just think his upside is ultimately capped, like we saw last weekend. All right. Bucks at Browns, supposed to be a bad weather game, so we need to keep an eye on this. I'm not going to jump too much into this because we need to kind of see what the weather is going to look like going into tomorrow. And it's, I mean, at the moment, it's not supposed to be good. It's supposed to be the worst weather game of the weekend. Rain and winds pretty high. So Rashad White probably gets a little bit of a boost as well as Nick Chubb. But all those pass catchers on both sides, Godwin, Evans, maybe Kate Otten in a deeper league at tight end, and Njoku for the Browns, Mari Cooper and DPJ for the Browns all take a big hit, as do both quarterbacks in this matchup. So don't want to jump too much into that one because it's a little bit difficult when we're waiting on the weather. All right, Ravens at Jags. I like this game script. Might see a little bit of showers in this game too, if I'm not mistaken. But I still like this matchup. Listen, guys. This could be one of those weeks where Lamar bounces back for you. But I thought the same thing last week versus the Panthers, so I'm still worried about Lamar. Demarcus Robinson is a really good sleeper option for the week. Right wide receiver for the Ravens. I think he could have a very good game in this matchup. I don't trust the Ravens backfield, and you can always start Mark Andrews. In terms of the Jaguars, Christian Kirk, I think, is a really solid start. The Ravens secondary has been very poor against receivers from a fantasy perspective. I like Christian Kirk this weekend a lot. Trevor Lawrence, a desperate streaming option. I don't have anything against Trevor Etienne, but I do think that this Ravens run defense has vastly improved itself. So if you have other options outside of Etienne, you might want to consider them, but I'm not against him necessarily. All right, moving into the 4 o'clock games, Raiders at Seahawks, another game that's supposed to have some bad weather, so we need to keep an eye on that as well. But Devontae Adams has to be in your lineup. Josh Jacobs should get a bump even if there is bad weather. Those two guys just have to be in your lineups. Outside of that, not very excited about this offense. I mean, it is a really good matchup for Foster Moreau at the tight end position, but I mean, I just don't know what to do with some of these weather games. You know, there's a big question mark around them. But I did read last night that this game isn't supposed to be like unbearable. Like it's just supposed to be some rain. I think that the Raiders-Seahawks game has one of the better outlooks in terms of weather. In terms of the Seahawks, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf should be in your starting lineups. Kenneth Walker should be in your starting lineups. And yes, you can start Geno Smith, but we'll keep an eye on the weather. But like I said, it's not supposed to be as bad as like the Bucks and Browns, for example. Okay. Chargers, Cardinals. Kyler Murray's starting in this game, but looking at the Chargers, right? Let's start Herbert. It's a good matchup. He played well last weekend. Palmer is a good lineup. Keenan Allen's a good start. Gerald Everett's going to be out there, and Austin Eckler. I mean, this is going to be a good game from a fantasy perspective in my eyes. Both these defenses have been struggling, so I say we fire up the Chargers offense. In terms of the Cardinals, fire them up too. If you have an other option other than Kyler, you might want to consider it just with the looming injury. But if you don't, he's okay. The Chargers are like middle of the pack against opposing quarterbacks. Like I said, I expect a little bit of a shootout in this one. So, Hollywood Brown is not going to play, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look. Or is he still listed as questionable? He's expected to play. That's right. So, Hollywood Brown should be out there. Greg Dortch is questionable. Rondale Moore is out. DeAndre Hopkins is a must start. And James Conner, I would say, has really kind of grown on me throughout the week. It's just a fantastic matchup against the Chargers. He has 11 or more fantasy points in his last 3 games in PPR. He should have maybe his best performance of the season, if all things go right. But he should be a lock for double digits. So Conner's in your lineup. Hopkins is in your lineup. Hollywood Brown is still a little bit of a risk coming back from injury, but I would imagine Kyler's going to target him quite a bit. So fire him up. Why not? All right, Saints at Niners. It's a tough matchup for the Saints offense, but Chris Olave should still be in your starting lineup, especially in full PPR. And Alvin Kamara is good to go. If you don't have better options, if you do have better options, you might want to consider them. Okay, Jawan Johnson, not a great matchup, but I don't care. Jawan Johnson at the tight end position should be considered a start. A bad matchup last week and still double digits. Okay, but obviously at the tight end position, you always have to limit expectations. All right, with the Niners, so many options here, right? CMC, Debo, Ayuk, George Kittle. And Debo, let's just double check to see if we have an update dealing with the hamstring injury. This is a different hamstring than the one that was bothering him. So we'll keep an eye on Debo. But if he's good to go, you start Debo, right? Start Ayuk, start CMC, start Kittle. Bad matchup for Kittle. He's boom or bust. Got to start him. Jimmy G, a solid streaming option as well. Rams Chiefs. I'm staying away from the Rams offense with a potential third string quarterback going out there. Staying away from the Rams offense. Higbee, Robinson, maybe if you're desperate. I don't want to make a call on the Rams backfield because I have no idea what's going to happen. Chiefs offense, start them all. Juju, MVS, Kelsey, Mahomes. I mean, the running back position is a little bit tougher to read, but Isaiah Pacheco's fine. Start them all. Start the Chiefs defense. This is going to be a stupid game for the Chiefs. Packers, Eagles, Sunday Night Football. It's a tough matchup to read, right? The Packers played well against the Cowboys just 2 weeks ago. And the Eagles defense has been kind of struggling the last 2 weeks. So Watson brings a lot of upside. I've had a lot of questions about Christian Watson. We can still start Christian Watson. We just have to understand he brings risk with that upside. If he does not score, he's probably not going to have a great game. He wasn't really having a great fantasy game last week on Thursday Night Football. Then he scored twice. He's getting that upside from the touchdowns. And Rodgers seems to trust him in the end zone at this point in the season. So, yes, you can flex Watson. Yes, if you have to start him as a wide receiver too, that's fine. But just understand the risk that comes with Christian Watson, right? I want to like Alan Lazard, but his upside has been capped because he was scoring like a touchdown almost every game to start the year, and then Watson kind of took that away, and he'll probably draw more of the defensive pressure. So I'm a little leery of Alan Lazard, but if it's full PPR, you don't have better options, he's still okay. Aaron Jones, regardless of matchup, should be in your lineup. Tanyan has not shown enough consistency or high ceilings as of late for me to really want to start him. Okay, so Watson, Lazard, but Lazard is not holding a great ceiling in my eyes. He has to score to really bring that upside, you know. And Jones should be in your lineup. Aaron Rodgers a desperate option, but not a great option for in terms of a high ceiling. Just played his 2 best games of the season in the last 2 weeks, though. In terms of the Eagles, we know what we're doing here. I mean, we're firing up everybody, right? A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, all in your starting lineups as we approach the weekend. You might have a better running back option than Sanders, but and maybe Devonta Smith too. But like, you can always start these Eagles players. It's the way that this season has gone, right? This should be a good game. It should be a fun Sunday night game. All right, Steelers at Colts. Listen, it's a bad matchup for the Steelers, especially at the wide receiver position. But we're in another week where the Steelers are going to be playing from behind in my eyes. So I think George Pickens is still a good option. And I think that Deontay Johnson is someone you can still consider. But just keep in mind, the Colts are one of the best teams in the league against the wide receiver position. So just keep that in mind. That's all I'm saying. But I think that Pickens still holds enough volume to start. I mean, look at the last couple of weeks. George Pickens has been very consistent. Pat Freiermuth is a great start. Najee Harris is still a good start as well. Had a really good week last week. So I actually like the Steelers' offense going into this matchup. In terms of the Colts, start Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman has a really good matchup here. The Steelers are the worst team in the league against opposing receivers from a fantasy perspective. So you can start Pittman. It's still a little risky. Like, this hasn't brought a lot of great ceilings. Paris Campbell's fine here for some upside, but some risk. Alec Pierce has really kind of come back to earth, so I don't love him as much. But these receivers have a really good opportunity against a bad Steelers secondary. Okay. All right. There's a little Week 12 intro. I usually do that on Sundays, but we're going to do it here on Saturday instead. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming out today. I know it's an early stream. Like I said, leaving for the beach tonight, so I'm streaming early today. So I appreciate you guys being here, man. Smash that like button for me and hop in the live chat, man. Let me know how you guys are feeling going into the week here. All right. Let's hop into it. We're going to drink a water and we'll crack it. I know what that was supposed to mean. We'll crack it. Bear Boy, what's up, man? Josh Jacobs or Rachaad White with Jacobs' last-second injury report? It's a good question. You know, if you are worried about the injury to Josh Jacobs, then it's perfectly fine to just fire up Rachaad White because he's an extremely safe start. Okay, and here's what you're going to be faced with ultimately is the Buccaneers-Browns game is at 1 o'clock. The Raiders-Seahawks game is at 4 o'clock. So it's a really good matchup for Josh Jacobs, obviously playing at an elite level right now. So it's very close between the two. I mean, ultimately, if I had to pick, no weather here, no injuries here, I'll go Josh Jacobs, right? But with the injury coming up, like you're saying, it might be a safer idea to start Rachaad White, who gets a beautiful matchup against the Browns. Not supposed to be great weather in that game, but that should help Rachaad White ultimately. So I still like Josh Jacobs more, but with the circumstances here, like Josh Jacobs coming out as questionable, you might get screwed, right? Because if you plan on starting Josh Jacobs and he doesn't play, then you lose Rachaad White because he's in the early window. So you might just want to go Rachaad White, who I think is very safe. Olrak, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Full PPR, need a flex. Patterson, Foreman, Everett, Higbee, DPJ, or Burks. Interesting options here. Believe it or not, I'll go Treylon Burks. This is full PPR. I worry about Patterson's matchup. I worry about Foreman's matchup. Like, you're just crossing your fingers one of those two players if you start him scores, because Washington's run defense has been very good. And ultimately, I don't like the game script for Foreman against the Broncos. And I'd rather start a receiver over one of those two tight ends. And DPJ is supposed to be in a rain game. So for me, it comes down to Treylon Burks, actually. Dicer, what's good, bro? Hope all is well. Happy Thanksgiving to you. All right, 10-1. Let's go. Probably losing this week. I have these three receivers. Who would you play? Evans, Godwin, Juju. It's tough. It's tough because, once again, we're supposed to get bad weather for the Broncos, or excuse me, for the Browns-Buccaneers game, right? So, ultimately, I'd probably go Mike Evans, but with the bad weather, I'm probably going Juju here. You know, we got to pay attention going into tomorrow's slate because we're going to get better weather updates tomorrow, but the main bad weather game is the Buccaneers-Browns. And, like, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that you avoid everyone completely and just cross them out because some of these players still play well in bad weather games, you know, in rain games and things. But we just have to ultimately consider it as a factor. So Juju, on the other hand, gets a pretty damn good matchup against the Rams. I think Juju's a lot safer. For my other league, I need a W. I'm fighting for playoffs. Wide receivers, Amari Cooper, Evans, Juju. Which two? Or should we play one in flex and Rashad White in the flex? Yeah, that's. I like Juju in both circumstances. It's really tough because like Cooper and Evans is probably who I would go with on a regular basis. But with the weather looming at the moment, I would have Juju in and Rashad White in the flex. But just keep in mind, Dicer, like things can definitely change if we get a better weather report. Albert was good, bro. Good to see you, dude. What's up, man? Rashad White or ETN? I would probably go Rashad White due to matchup here, but it's very close. Both are still good options. Albert, Lockett or Juju in half PPR? You know, I think both give you a pretty solid chance to score. So in half PPR, I'm not too entirely concerned. Let's see. Lockett has 5 touchdowns on the season. Juju has just 2. Lockett does draw a really good matchup against. I probably go Lockett because that game's not supposed to have as bad of weather as we were initially led to believe. So I probably go Lockett. Bryce, do we think Jets beat the Bears even if the coin flip says they won't? I think the Jets win that game. Yeah. But you never know. NFL's crazy. GR Reed, hello. I need help. I'm being frozen out by the haters in my league and haven't traded with me all season. Uh-oh. Ertz is hurt. Is Kmet or Hooper a better choice? So you can't start Ertz. So yes, both are better options. Between the two, it's very close. But I'm trying to kind of stay away from the Bears offense this weekend. So let's just see. In terms of the Jets against opposing tight ends, exactly where they come in at. I mean, ultimately, I'm kind of worried about Kmet. I mean, he had a great matchup last weekend and still didn't play, very well. I mean, the Jets are kind of middle of the pack, kind of closer to the top, but they're not the best, not the worst. So I worry about Kmet. I might just go Austin Hooper, if I'm being honest. I mean, he's been very involved. He's looked like a good security blanket for Tannehill. It's close, because on the season, I like Kmet more. I mean, Cincinnati is one notch ahead of the Jets against opposing tight ends. I'd probably go Hooper, but man, it's close. Also have ETN, but I'm waiting for either White, Foreman, or Pacheco rest of the season in this week. I mean, I'd probably go White, then Pacheco, then Foreman. That's how I would rank them. I mean, let's just take a look at Foreman's upcoming schedule because he's just had 2 really tough matchups. So I don't like him this week. He's got a bye week. Then he gets Seattle, Pittsburgh, and Detroit. So hold him for that stretch. That's a beautiful stretch. And he gets Tampa Bay to finish the year, which is not great. So on the week, I will go White, then Pacheco, then Foreman. On the season, I probably go White, Foreman, Pacheco. TX Ninja, what's up? Bob Sushi, hello. Who would you put at flex between Cooper, Evans, and Chubb? Thinking Evans or Chubb. I would go Chubb for sure. You don't bench Nick Chubb. No, and I know it's a tough matchup, but this game script should benefit him in terms of a possible rain game and everything. So I'll go Chubb here for sure. SGV, what's up, man? Gus Edwards, Sutton, Lazard at flex and standard scoring. That's tough. In standard, you want to go to the running back position because they have a higher likelihood of scoring outside like your top 8 receivers, right? So Gus Edwards is still questionable, though. And you just got to keep in mind it's very, very difficult to trust the Ravens backfield. So it's a tough call. I go Gus Edwards if he's healthy. If not, believe it or not, I go Lazard. Bully McGuire, what's up, bro? About to be 10-2. Let's go. Starting White at my flex. I like it. Good to see you, bro. Do you think there's a chance Tyler Algier can smash later this season PPR redraft? I mean, I've believed in Tyler Algier since the offseason. I thought he'd be right up there with Dameon Pierce. And quite frankly, I still think he could have had that production. But the way that this Falcons team operates is they want to rotate 3 or 4 running backs on a weekly basis. And like we always knew Cordell Patterson was going to be a factor, but Caleb Huntley has really stepped up, as is Williams. So it's tough. It's tough. But when we look at the upcoming schedule, right? Get Washington, Pittsburgh, a bye week, New Orleans, Baltimore, and Arizona. It's not the most favorable schedule. Like Washington obviously is tough. Pittsburgh has some holes. Like it's not as tough. They get a bye week. They get the Saints. Not the best, not the worst. They get Baltimore, is pretty tough. Then they get Arizona. Once again, not the best, not the worst. So, and then they get Tampa Bay in Week 18 for that matter. So listen, man, I want to like Tyler Algier, but the two factors are the remaining strength of schedule is not great. It's not awful, but it's not great. And plus, we just know that the Falcons are going to rotate multiple running backs. So I want to be there with you, my dude, but it's just tough. It's tough. Trust me, I was a huge fan of Algier in the offseason. And I was, like, when he started to get on that little stretch here in the midpoint of the season, I was like, oh, let's go. It's Tyler Algier time. And didn't exactly happen. All right, Reese, what's going on? A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, or Palmer? A.J. Brown hasn't scored 10 points in 3 weeks. It's tough. I'd probably still go A.J. Brown. If you don't want to go Brown, I think Palmer is actually the next best option. But seriously, I think you have to go A.J. Brown. I get it. I get it. But the second that Brown has another 20-plus point performance, you're going to beat yourself up, you know. Green Bay is pretty good against the wide receiver position, though. I will say A.J. Brown plays Tennessee in Week 13, and that secondary has played awful. Revenge game, so to speak, going back to his former team. That's going to be a good week for A.J. Brown. So, and it depends on your scoring format, Reese. Maybe you're in standard, but full PPR, A.J. Brown reads at 15.9, 1.79. So, but it just depends. I mean, if you're not comfortable with the Eagles' offense, then go Palmer. Okay. But I'd probably start A.J. Brown. I get it. It's been frustrating as of late, though. All right, Christian, should I trade away Devontae Adams, ETN, and Higbee for Chase, Monty, and Kelsey? Wow. A lot to give up here. I mean, obviously you're getting Kelsey, so you get a huge positional advantage. You know, anytime Kelsey's involved, I'm going to consider it at the end of the day. Going to consider it. So, I mean, you get a huge potential there, right? And that's, we do like to see that. But let's look at the other part. I'd rather have ETN than Monty. And Chase versus Adams is super close. Super close. You know, Chase probably coming back next week from injury, since he was very close to coming back this week. But still, it's just, I don't know, man. Here's kind of the trade-off. Like Adams, Chase, very close. But if you need to win now, you have to hold, and you can't do the trade. Because you have to have Adams in your starting lineup to win now, as opposed to Chase, who's not starting. On the other hand, you downgrade at running back. You go from ETN to Montgomery. So it depends on the rest of your roster who you're going to be left with at running back. The biggest advantage for you in this trade is you get Kelsey over Higbee. So Chase versus Adams, very close. Downgrade at running back, but upgrade at tight end. So the tight end aspect is good, but does that necessarily leave you with that running back is kind of where my mind goes. And are you in a win now position? Because if you are, you have to hold on to Adams for the week. Evans or Samaje Perine, both are fine, but I'd probably go Perine. We got to keep an eye on the weather. Got to keep an eye on the weather. I mean, I like Evans against the Browns, but it's still tough because the weather's not supposed to be great. Kevin, what's good, bro? What it do, baby? What up? 12-man full PPR. Would you trade Wilson and Brady for Mahomes? Probably. My other running backs are Kamara, Jones, Rashad White, Pacheco, Dillon. I mean, I'd really like for you to be able to hold Jeff Wilson, but yeah, I would still do this trade. You know, that leaves you with Jones, Rashad White, Kamara to start, Pacheco as a worst-case scenario. Then you have Jones as handcuff, which is smart. I love me some Jeff Wilson. He's going to have a huge week this week. I mean, if you can hold off, I mean, your trade probably won't process until Monday night, right? Until the week ends or Tuesday morning, whatever it is. Depends on your league, but Jeff Wilson's going to have a monster game against the Texans, which should only help the fact that you're trading him. But yeah, I would still do this trade. Mahomes is playing at an extremely high level. He's your quarterback one in fantasy. I mean, I would do the trade. What's up, Brent? Who do you prefer, Olave or Rachaad White? I think Rachaad White brings a safer floor. I think he's a really safe start against the Browns. So I'm good with Rachaad White there if you want to kind of play it safe, but I'm not giving up on Olave by any means. He had a huge week last week. We were a little bit worried about his performance in week 11, but I mean, ultimately, I want to go Chris Olave. But I do think he still brings some potential risk in a bad matchup against the Niners. And if Andy Dalton struggles in this game, which could definitely happen like we saw 2 weeks ago, I mean, you could, you have potential for garbage time, with the Saints probably playing from behind. Should see good volume for Olave. And I'm not out on Olave. But I think his ceiling's a little bit lower this week. So if you want a safer start, I think Rachaad White is fine. But I think Olave is still okay too. We got you, GR, of course. Tommy, Hurst, or Komet? I go Hurst. I'm a little bit worried about this Bears offense this weekend. So I'll go Hurst, but I don't expect a very high ceiling out of either start. DJ Duvernay, what's good, my dude? 12-team full PPR. Lamar, Barkley, Etienne, Diggs, Brown, Dulcich, Hopkins. On the bench, we got Monty, Pickens, Ingram, Foreman, Watson. Moving anything before my deadline or holding rest of the season and play waiver wire. I would hold, man. This is a good team. Both Kelsey and Andrew owners aren't trading. Tried that because that was the biggest reason I would trade. But do you feel like a tight end other than those two are worth trying to get before the deadline? And is Barkley concerned to try and trade out because of playoff schedule and bad last 2 weeks? I would not trade Barkley now. I'm not worried about him. I'm really, really not. And I think he had a good week last week. I do. I give him a little bit more credit. He sold 15.2 points, scored a touchdown, 4 receptions, 39 yards on the ground against a bad defense. But yeah, I get it. He gets Washington, Philadelphia, Washington. Some people are worried about that. And he finished out with Minnesota and Indy, who aren't bad against the run, but also not, like, they're just both middle of the pack teams, right? So it doesn't hold as much upside. But, like, Barkley's also matchup proof. I mean, he had 32.4 points against Tennessee in week 1, 22.6 against Dallas in week 3, 18.5 against Baltimore in week 6, 15.2 against Dallas in week 12. All very good run defenses. I don't personally worry about Barkley, but I get what you're saying. In terms of the tight end position, we're in a really strange place when it comes to tight ends. So if you can trade for Kittle, if you can trade for Schultz, if you can trade for Hawkinson, if you can trade for Pat Freiermuth, they're all worth trading for. If you feel like that's what's missing from your team, David Njoku's probably another name I would put in there. Those are really your guys outside of Kelsey and Andrews if you want to move on. But other than that, I think your team looks really good. I would hold George Pickens. His upcoming strength of schedule is very favorable. But Barkley, Etienne, a solid duo. Don't forget Etienne has the Lions in week 17, so a good matchup there. No, he gets Houston. I'm so sorry. He gets Houston in week 17. So literally the best matchup possible, right? Diggs, Brown, Hopkins is ridiculous. Hold on to Lamar. I think he's going to turn it back up. But yeah, I would hold Pickens, a very favorable schedule coming up. Anyone else I would say is like Dulcich, Ingram, Monty, Foreman, even Deshaun Watson are in trade contention in my eyes. I would hold Lamar. His playoff schedule looks really good. All right, Bully, I'm going to clap my opponent once again. Stay in first place. I'm just lapping my league. Let's go. Let's go. Justin, who should I start? Juju, Palmer, Olave? I actually like Juju Smith-Schuster here. But to be honest with you, Justin, I think all these players hold a very similar floor and ceiling. They all have pretty good matchups. Olave does not have a good matchup, but his volume, is fantastic. So I think they all hold really similar floors and ceilings. It's very close amongst the three. Very, very close. So it's so tough to bench a guy like Olave, right? Because, we had the bad week in week 11. We got a little spooked. We had a lot of people bench him in week 12, and he pops off, But it is another tough matchup, and I could see the Saints potentially in a game script here that, does benefit Chris Olave, but also a game script where they're struggling entirely. So I might have Juju in there. I think Juju has a good game against the Rams. I think the Chiefs have a good day against the Rams. Should I start Rachaad White or Pirine? I would take Rachaad White because the Browns' run game is awful. Don't get me wrong. Pirine can get it done through the air, but the Titans' run defense is very good. So, his upside is almost limited for that reason. I go Rachaad White, but they're both fine starts. Tommy, Rachaad White, Michael Carter, DPJ. I go Michael Carter for full PPR. And Rachaad White's perfectly fine here as well. DPJ, I stay away from because of the potential rain game. So you could really go White or Michael Carter. It's very close. I think both have very good days. They could both easily outscore each other. Both are good starts, Tommy. GR, I haven't heard that Chase is out. He's listed as questionable. Where does it say that? Yeah, the Sleeper app has it on there. So let's see here. According to a source via Fantasy Pros, Jamar Chase is reportedly out for Cincinnati's Week 13 matchup against Tennessee, or Week 12 against Tennessee. So Sleeper is usually the app that has it first for some reason. So according to Fantasy Pros and Sleeper, he's out. But sometimes some of the other apps take a little bit to catch up there. DJ Duvernay Dolchich was dropped by Kelsey owner, which I was happy about. Yeah. Do you think that... I don't know. Greg Dolchich has had good matchups the last 2 weeks. I'd really like to see him get more involved. Kels, Dameon Pierce or Rachaad White? I'd personally start Rachaad White. I worry about Dameon Pierce against Washington's run defense. So I'll go Rachaad White. A much better matchup. Dante, what's good, bro? Jawan Johnson or Ingram? I got to go Jawan Johnson. He's just playing at a very high level right now. I got to go with him, man. It's Ingram been kind of playing down as of late. So give me Johnson. A bad matchup, but I don't care. Give me Johnson. Reese, I've Hurts. Should I trade Chase for Lamar just in case Hurts gets hurt? It depends on the rest of your team, but I'm not very worried about Hurts. I'm not worried about Hurts at all right now, man. But, going into the playoffs with Hurts and Lamar is not bad. Olave is so undervalued in fantasy. Dude's a top 12 PPR scorer, missed a game plus half another. Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about that last night, going through Olave's numbers, right? It's where does he really rank because of the missed game? And the other half game is a good point, too. It does depend. If you don't play in full PPR, I think Olave does hold a little bit of a lower ceiling, but I'm all for Olave by all means. It's not that I worry about Olave at all. What I do worry about is the potential matchup being an issue, because the Niners defense has been very good on the season. So is Olave going to get the volume this weekend? Absolutely. We look at last weekend, the Niners Cardinals, right? Hopkins got a ton of volume, right? It looked like he was on pace for a 20 reception game, although he got kind of X'd out in the second half. But I think Olave could gain a lot of volume just in the first half alone again, like we saw last week for Hopkins. So I'm not against Olave at all, but we do have to pay attention. Overall, what I worry about is just Andy Dalton struggling like we saw 2 weeks ago. He's such a tough quarterback to take a look at because last week he had a great week and the week before he played bad. So, but I agree with you, man. Yeah, Olave's a guy I wish I went after in drafts this year. I really liked him in the offseason, and then it just didn't quite work out to where he was falling to me in drafts. But it's tough, man. It's tough. I started to move on kind of to sneakier values like Jahan Dotson and Christian Watson, and kind of started to go after the guys like that, and Romeo Dobbs as well. So what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? All right, Tommy, full PPR. Pacheco, Smith, DJ Moore. I'd probably go Devonta Smith in full PPR. I understand the risk he brings, but I'd probably go Smith. I want to stay away from Carolina's offense. Don't get me wrong. It's not like Sam Darnold can be any worse than Baker Mayfield. And I mean, we'll give PJ Walker credit. He's played just fine this year. He's had some bad performances, but he's had good enough performances too. Ultimately, it's not as much about Sam Darnold. It's about the matchup against the Denver Broncos. So, I mean, Pat Surtain has played at an extremely high level. I know he gave the walk-off touchdown last weekend, but whatever. He still played very, very good. Give me Devonta Smith in full PPR. Zounder, what's good, bro? Should I start Hopkins over Chubb? I mean, you can. You can. Both are going to have good games. But I still believe in Chubb, even against Tampa Bay, Zounder. And we'll probably get rain in this game, which should help Nick Chubb's volume. But I also worry that Tampa Bay could just say, like, they're just going to run the ball. Like, they have Nick Chubb. We know to stop the run. It's a rain game. They're limited in the passing game. So there's a little bit of worry there, but I feel like majority of you guys who own Nick Chubb, you should still start Nick Chubb. If you want to go Hopkins over Chubb, I'm not against it, though. See a little bit of a better game script there at the end of the day for D-Hop. So that's fine. If Chase doesn't play, who do I play? Wide receiver 2 and flex. Campbell, Lazard, Watson, DPJ. Wide receiver 2, you got some interesting options here. I actually like Campbell. It's a good matchup against the Steelers. Like, does he bring a little bit of risk? Yes. Does he bring upside? For sure. I mean, double digits in his last 2 weeks in full PPR. You know, since week 6, the only games where he hasn't had double digits have been the 2 games where Sam Ehlinger started. So, I would go Paris Campbell in full PPR. I would. Matt Ryan loves this guy. You know, in games where Matt Ryan, since week 6, where Matt Ryan has been quarterback, Paris Campbell's had between 6 and 12 targets every game. So, the Steelers are the worst team in the league against opposing receivers from a fantasy perspective. So, yeah, I go Campbell, and I go Watson, because DPJ's got bad weather. Lazard got a tough matchup. So those are the 2 I'd feel the best about. Yeah. Campbell and Watson. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about it? All right, let's see. Kevin, I reached for Pickens in 8th round of 12-team league, but don't regret it. Guy's so talented, dominant Bama as a freshman. Never seen that before. Yeah, I was super high on Pickens in the offseason, like after the draft. Like early on, before the George Pickens craze happened. The 3 guys I was super high on after the draft were George Pickens, Dameon Pierce, and Tyler Algier. If you don't believe me, go back and find the streams, whatever. And then, like, throughout the summer, we got the George Pickens craze and the Dameon Pierce craze. Never really got the Tyler Algier craze, but those are guys I was drafting, like, left and right. I have a lot of ownership and underdog drafts to those 3 guys, and it worked out until the crazes happened, and then he couldn't draft them anymore. So I think Pickens is a great pick in the 8th round, man. How should I feel about Deshaun season? He's stashed away on my bench. We're going to need to kind of see what happens. I wouldn't count on Deshaun Watson as your starting quarterback. Like, we just need to see what happens is all. He comes back against Houston. It's going to be a really interesting game. But I don't actually see a high ceiling for Deshaun Watson in his first game back, because what is Houston awful at? Stopping the run. What are the Browns good at? Running the football. I think the Browns are going to do everything they can to win this game, and vice versa. And the Texans do everything they can to win this game as well. But I just don't. I think they're going to kind of work Watson back in. And Houston on the season has played well against the quarterback and wide receiver position. But part of that is because teams just run the football, so the receivers and quarterbacks don't need to do as much. I'm not discrediting them because they do have some really good young players on the defense as well. But I think in that game at Houston, the Browns are just going to pound the football. So then they get Cincinnati, Baltimore, New Orleans, and Washington. It's really not the most favorable schedule for Deshaun Watson. Like Cincinnati, Baltimore, and New Orleans, and even Washington, like they all have problems with their defenses. but they all have really good aspects of their defenses as well. So, listen, I'm not completely against Watson, but I just want to see the actual sample size, so I would not rely on him as a starter. Tommy, I got Dak, Waddle, Higgins, CMC, Barkley, Freiermuth, Eagles defense, and Justin Tucker. It looks good to me, Tommy. Looks like a really solid lineup. Obviously, Dak already had a good game. Barkley had a good game. So, Waddle, Higgins, CMC, Freiermuth are all solid starts. Eagles defense, I'm crossing my fingers for. You know, I mean, they have not played as well in the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, you add Linval Joseph, you added Ndamukong Suh. They both looked good. They need a little bit more time to get adjusted. They're still the number 3 defense in fantasy football right now. They get Green Bay, Tennessee, the Giants, Chicago, Dallas, New Orleans to finish out the year. Some good opportunities in there. Some tougher opportunities in there. They're okay if there's not better options. But they just really disappointed me the last 2 weeks, Tommy. All right, Roger, Rachaad White or McLaurin. Very close. Full PPR, I probably do go McLaurin. Any other scoring format, I definitely go Rachaad White. It's close. I think both are going to have good games, but I really do like Terry McLaurin against the Falcons secondary. So I think he's a really solid start, but I also really like Rachaad White against the Browns run defense that has been awful this season. So it's very close. Do I trade Dalvin Cook and George Kittle for Kelsey? Bryce, it depends on what it leaves you with. But yeah, anytime you guys can go out and get Kelsey, I'm basically going to say yes, because he just offers such a massive positional advantage on a weekly basis. Depends on what you get left with at the running back position, but I would consider it. Scar, Rachaad White, or Pirine? I go Rachaad White personally. Should I trade Saquon for Henry? Yes. I love both. Nothing against either running back. I'm all for Saquon. I think he's matchup proof. I don't care who's going up against. But when we look at things from a realistic perspective, Saquon has a tougher matchup, or strength of schedule for the rest of the season. Henry gets Cincinnati and Philly the next 2 weeks. Not completely strong, but you can still start him in both those games, right? Then he gets Jacksonville, the Chargers, and Houston in the next 3 weeks. Beautiful matchups. He does end the year in the fantasy championship in week 17 against Dallas. But this should be a game for the Cowboys and for the Titans where they are both fighting for playoff seeding. It should be a competitive game. So I'm not against Derrick Henry in that matchup. We look at Barkley, just had 15 points against Dallas. I think Henry will be just fine. So Derrick Henry has the better strength of schedule. When we look at Saquon Barkley, on the other hand, right, he gets Washington, Philly, Washington, 3 bad matchups in a row. Once again, I do want to emphasize, I don't care who Saquon Barkley plays. I'm perfectly fine with Barkley in your starting lineups. And he gets Minnesota and Indianapolis, who are kind of middle of the pack. Minnesota's run defense has really fallen back. So it's close. And keep in mind, right, but that's just going off of going into week 12 where those defenses rank. So that could change. But ultimately, Henry has the better strength of schedule. So just keep in mind, Henry doesn't bring as much PPR upside, although he's shown a little bit this season. He always shows a little bit. But it doesn't matter. He's going to get it done, right? I mean, he's like accountable for like 90% of the Titans' offense. Abraham, I have Najee, Sanders, and Jacobs as my running back. Should I still play Jacobs if he's good to go over these two? It's a must-win situation. It's a tough position to be in. This is what I would do. It's actually not too bad because Sanders plays Sunday night. Najee plays on Monday. So what you want to do, Abraham, is just evaluate things. If Jacobs is cleared and he's good to go, you start him. It's too good of a matchup to ignore. If he's not cleared and good to go, just roll with Najee and Sanders. So you're in a pretty good position. I think Najee is going to have a good week. Sanders is still fine. So weird Cleveland is bad against the run with Clowney and Miles on that line. Yeah, they're fine in terms of a pass rush, but the run defense has been so bad this year. Lamar Jackson or Geno Smith? Geno for a floor, Lamar Jackson for upside, but more risk. Kevin, so pumped I snagged Schultz off waivers around week 8 for $8. Let's go, man. Great steal. All the top defensive streamers are gone. Are the Colts a good option? They're an okay option, yeah. They're okay. Kenny Pickett does like to throw some interceptions, although he's been playing a little bit better as of late. But if there's no one out there, that's fine. I mean, they had 10 points last week against Philly, so I don't expect a crazy high ceiling, you know. Of course, Steven runs our must-start defenses every week on the channels. If you want to go through and find the must-start defenses and drop Steven a comment, he can give you his insight as well. Here, I can grab the week for you. He always puts some good streaming options on there as well. So if you want to take a look at that, I can drop you the link in just a second. All right, here we go. There's Steven's must-start defenses for anyone interested. But yeah, the Colts are okay, just not a high ceiling. It's cryptic. My opponent has King Henry and Rachaad White this week. I think I'm screwed. You never know. You never know. Tommy, my other team, Hurts, Diggs, Kirk, Jones, Wilson, Schultz, Dolphins defense, and Tucker. Beautiful. Nothing wrong with that lineup at all. It's a great lineup. For the Kelsey trade I was talking about, I would be left with Kenneth Walker, Najee, and Miles Sanders. Yeah, it hurts to lose Cook there, but gaining Kelsey is worth it. I mean, Cook's still your RB11. He gets the Jets, Detroit, Indy, the Giants, Green Bay. Not the best, not the worst remaining strength of schedule, but you're getting Kelsey. I think it's worth it if you feel good about it, bro. I'm all for running back depth at this point in the season, but I think you'll be okay. Najee's got a very favorable remaining strength of schedule, so Kenneth and Najee are going to be here leaning on. Let's see here. GR, Treylon Burks available on waivers. Do you think I should start him instead of Watson this week? I think Burks brings a safer floor. Watson still brings far more upside in my eyes, but more risk as well. So it's close. I mean, Watson looks at 32.7 and 21.1 in the last 2 weeks, but if you take away those touchdowns, he's left with very bad stat lines, like similar to what we saw throughout the beginning of the season. So, it's tough. It's tough. Burks brings a floor. Watson brings a risk and upside. I would say if you're in need of more potential points, you probably go with Watson. But Burks is okay. Still at 111 receiving yards last week. You know, and I think that the way that the Bengals offense is playing, that the Titans are going to have to throw the football. So, what's up, okay? 3 out of Aaron Jones, JT, Rachaad White, or Jeff Wilson. Oh, God. Oh, goodness. You can't go wrong here. I mean, start Jeff Wilson. I'll put it that way. I love Jeff Wilson against the Texans this weekend. If he has a bad game, you guys are going to hate me and never listen to me again. But there's no reason why Jeff Wilson, who's hit double digits in the last 2 performances, with Raheem Mostert doubtful to play in this game against the worst run defense in the league, does not come out of this matchup with double digits again. I mean, he has got a gorgeous matchup. I think he should be in all your guys' starting lineups if you do own him. I probably go Rachaad White against the Browns. You know what? I take it back. I go Jeff Wilson, JT, and Aaron Jones. Go with the 2 studs, the veteran guys, and then play Jeff Wilson against Texans. And I love Rachaad White this weekend, but you really can't go wrong. All these players are going to have good games. Dash cams, Joshua, Devonta Smith, Campbell. Give me Josh Palmer. But there's an argument for any of those receivers. Abraham, thoughts on Ravens defense this week? I like them this week. I think that they're a good play for sure. But I do think that the Jaguars are going to be able to keep this game competitive. Don't get me wrong. So I'm not like counting the Jaguars out, but if you need a streaming option, I think that the Ravens are a good option for sure. I mean, they've looked good the last 2 weeks. And ultimately, I think they're coming in, defense number 5. So they've had double digits in 3 of their last 4 matchups. So I think that they're definitely good to go. Defense 5, looking good right now. So let's see here. Are Terry and Pittman good starts for this week? I have Sutton, Boyd on bench. Yes. Yeah, Boyd is close here. But I think if you feel good about Terry and Pittman, you keep them in. For sure. Terry, a great matchup against the Falcons. Pittman, a great matchup against the Steelers. Boyd does have a good matchup as well against Tennessee, especially with Chase not expected to play. So it's close here. But I think if you feel good about those two receivers, you keep them in. Kevin, how should I feel about this weather in Cleveland with Brady and Rashad? Yeah, it's tough here. It's tough. I mean, the more we look at it, the worse that this weather looks for that matchup tomorrow. So let's see. I just want to see if I have any recent or more recent updates. All right, here's 2 hours ago. All right, that's just for the Niners and Saints, so that doesn't help us. Let's see. So... Oh, yeah, that's right. I keep forgetting the Bears and Jets. It's supposed to be a rain game as well. Wow. I didn't realize it's supposed to be that bad. I mean, so the Bears and Jets was 94% chance of rain. Broncos, Panthers, a little bit of rain. 25% chance. Ravens, Jags, 55% chance. All right, so Buccaneers, Browns, 85% chance of rain. And the bigger factor is 20 to 45 miles per hour winds. So that's it's tough, you know. And where's the Raiders Seahawks has moved down to 50% chance of rain. And Falcons at Commanders also supposed to be a rain game. So we need to keep an eye on things there as well. And a heavy rain game, 93% chance. Yeah, I mean, but the biggest factor outside of the rain is that game is expected to have a lot of bad winds as well. Isn't Giovanni Bernard returning from IR this week? Ooh. Is Gio coming back? Yeah. I'm not worried about it personally. It's something to keep an eye on for sure. He had an impact last year to some degree in the passing game. But I'm not personally worried about it. I think Rachaad White will be good to go. But it's a good point. It's cryptic. Let's see. Bucks over Browns. Jets over Bears. Washington over Falcons. What's up, Bryce? Oh, these just... I mean, gosh. Betting's been so hard this year. Things are so up and down. I mean, I'll take the Jets over the Bears if I'm going to take one matchup there. I'll probably lean the Bucks. I lean Washington, but growing up as a Washington fan, I know to never trust them. I would literally never bet on Washington winning the game. But yeah, I think the Jets have a good shot there for sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to hit an hour. Only have time to stream for an hour today since we're leaving for the beach. I still got some stuff to do before we leave. So I just wanted to hop on, run a stream for you guys, those of you who could come out today. And I will be on tomorrow before kickoff and everything. So be on for an hour tomorrow before kickoff. We can get a better look at what to expect in terms of weather for tomorrow. Any injury updates that we need to go over as well. So we'll have plenty of time tomorrow to get your guys' rosters right. But I appreciate you guys coming out today. Appreciate you guys hanging out. I know it's not an optimal time, and that we usually stream at night, and a lot more of you guys are able to come out. But I appreciate you guys who were able to come out today, and I appreciate the fancy questions. And shout out to any of the new subscribers. Make sure you guys hit that like button on the way out, and check out the links in the description down below. Kevin, we'll talk to you soon, bro. Bryce, have a good day. Kevin, have a good day. Appreciate you guys. Bryce, pick 2. Connor, Kamara, Evans, Allen, Hollywood. I'll go with Connor in a great matchup. And probably Keenan Allen, but it's tough. All right, Giselle, let's see here. Half PPR, Herbert, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra, Stevenson, Pollard, Schultz, Rachaad White. Very solid. Bench is Moore, Sutton, Carr, and Mixon, and Njoku. Should I change any of my starting? No, you're in a great position here. Herbert's got a good matchup. Gets most of his receivers back outside of Mike Williams. Played well last week. A.J. Brown, perfectly fine. Keep him in your lineups. I know he's been struggling. Amon-Ra had a good game. Stevenson had a good game. Pollard disappointed, but you should be able to recover. Schultz had a good game. If you're starting Rachaad White and Pirine, that's fine. DJ Moore in a bad matchup. Sutton, not a high ceiling. I don't trust Kyron just yet. Mixon's hurt. I wouldn't flex Njoku over Pirine or Rachaad White, although I think he's going to have a good game. It's good that you started Schultz. So, team looks fine. Team looks good to me. I think you're in a good position for the week. Even, half PPR, full PPR, whatever it may be. I think you're in a good position for sure. So, I'd feel good about it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's stream. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I appreciate you guys. And everyone be safe. Have a great rest of your weekend, a great rest of your Saturday. You're welcome, Giselle. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. And that'll do it, guys. Hit that like button on the way out. Check out all the links down below. Join our Discord if you're new to the channel. Follow us on Instagram if you're new to the channel. And, guys, we have wide receiver rankings, running back rankings, tight end rankings, quarterback rankings, must-start defenses, must-start kickers out for the week. Go check them out. If you guys need further insight, go drop a comment, go drop a like. Let us know what you guys think. And that'll do it, man. So, I'm heading to the beach in a couple hours here. So, wish me luck on my drive. And that'll do it, man. So, I'll talk to you guys. I'm going to stream from my laptop tomorrow. The quality's going to suck, but it'll be okay. So, I'll talk to you guys before kickoff tomorrow. Everyone be safe. Love you guys, man. Love this community. Love the Catch fam. With that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on the Catch. And